Do you think I need to see Viola Davis snot cry every episode of How to Get Away with Murder? I don't, but the kids do. To see that they can be whatever it is they want to be.
Right.
Except now Jack wants to be an actor.
You're innocent! I know it!
Alright, so Blackish tried to kill two birds and a couple stones. Last week's episode, they attempted to address colorism, promotion, validation, all at once. Throughout the show, there's always been this thing where like his job is meaningless. The father of the show, he's in advertisement, and you know his wife is a doctor, so it's like always, like portraying his career like it's pointless. And even the show shows you like he doesn't do anything all day but just talk and gossip and do stupid stuff. But the show finally actually brings a highlight to how important his job actually is when it comes to promotion and the images we see and how companies market certain products and whatnot. And I guess I'm gonna give my opinion on how the show went. So first off, the show starts off where, as you see the clip, where some white neighbor gives her that little white doll. Her mom, being racially conscious, biracial woman she is, she says, "No, I gotta get me a black doll for my black daughter." And they go to the store. There's no black dolls visible. They're in the back somewhere else, and it's a bunch of runaway slaves and a mother of 11, all that type of nonsense. And she's like, "No, you need to up your game and choose dolls that are better." Now, my one issue with this episode, again, I understand they were being social justice warriors and trying to make points and all that, but I thought that being that her husband's career is an advertisement, it'd have been better if they actually showcased a black company that makes black dolls. Like, go online and point that out, but they didn't go that route. I mean, to me, that would have been a simple solution, right? Acknowledge that these white stores are not accommodating little black girls with a bunch of options when it comes to picking dolls and whatnot and toys. I just think that would have been more powerful in that episode if they should have did that, because it's like you want to be social justice in your show, which they typically do. Why not give some solutions and give people an out instead of begging stores to give you representation? Just create your own. And again, there's other companies out there that have black dolls that can give her what she wants. I thought that would have been a better episode, or a better point to put in the episode, especially being that her husband is in advertisement. He can make that call and find those things. But of course, after that happened, there was a situation where he's at work, and because this situation made her upset, so he goes back to work, and he's in a position where he could promote images that look like him and whatnot. So the other half of the show, after he hears her complaining about the dolls and what's going on there, he, takes it upon himself to take her problem to his job. And after she explains how important his job really actually is for the first time in 2 seasons so far, and I don't know how many episodes, but, he gets he makes a pitch to a client for advertisement. They loved it. It was a white family. And then after what happened with his wife, he comes back. It's like, oh, you know what? Let me put some black faces to some of these products. And then the company was cool, and they said okay. But once he picked this family, and it turned out to be the Barges or whatever, I forgot what he said, the Barges or whatever. His coworker, the black guy next to him, and even the white coworker started bothering him about him being a colorist and how the only reason why he picked this family because it's the closest thing to white and all this other stuff, and he's all like in denial of his self light skin I guess preferences or whatnot. But now here's the thing, like I was wondering if Chrissy and Rashida Stover actually watched these episodes, see if they got any feelings or whatnot. I gave Chrissy the benefit of the doubt and said that after I did the video about survivors morphs, when they covered colorism, and saying like because she's a businesswoman, she wouldn't have responded and acted the way the sister did on the show. But after listening to her last video with these new rules that, black women aren't going to support black male actors or singers if they have non-black wives or girlfriends, because they feel like the 6%, if you take, divide that by how many are actually of age to purchase this music, that they somehow, support these careers and run them and fund them, so they are entitled to dictate who you date and marry too. But I had said that I knew Rashida Shover from No Doubt. If she was in that position as the sister was in Survivor's Remorse, she would definitely do the same thing, which was a bad look. I think that it was a balanced argument, but it just made the sister look like dirt. It didn't help her. It didn't help the defense of those who publicly speak out for colorism and more representation in the media. But again, I gave Chrissy benefit doubt in that video, but now I've listened to her last video about, we not supporting brothers who don't, it is what it is. I think that's silly. You shouldn't demand anything from them other than them make the music that you want to hear or the movies that you want to see. That's just my take on it. But I wonder how they review these episodes, though, those two, when it comes to colors, because it did expose him as being a colorist. But my one issue that I had, even with the Lance Gross situation, because I was looking at like how everybody was like, see, this is an example of all these black men picking these light brights, right? It was funny too, because I was in another group and they were talking about, the author of the post was like, and his context was these black liberal men who talk about white supremacy and this and that. And he was talking about, in context, the director of Get Out, but he's biracial, but it is what it is. They one drop ruled him. And other people got brought up, like Nate Parker and whatnot, and how these people who talk about white supremacy and whatnot had white wives. And it was funny because these other sisters, these light-skinned sisters, was going in too, talking about these black men this and these black men that. And I'm like, if these dark-skinned successful black men picked you, there still would be complaints. And one sister responded, she's like, I wouldn't like a dark-skinned man. I don't know what that means, if she was gay or what, or if she's a swirler. I don't know what that meant, but she said, I understand your point. But it was funny that, as much as they were going in on black men for choosing these successful, out-of-touch black men for choosing white wives, they were in the same boat. If these black men were with them, there would be a bunch of sisters complaining about us choosing you too. So it's too much stuff that I can't even begin to act like I care. But the thing with the Lance Gross situation was how everybody's making it seem like, this is an example of all these black men liking light-skinned women. But I'm looking to myself, it's like, Lance is the only dark-skinned person in that picture. Like, the sister was dark-skinned, Lance was dark-skinned. The rest of them was waffle colored. The girls were lighter than the dudes, but by barely. So I didn't get that being an argument. Like, you can't lump those dudes in. Like, no, those dudes were not house neagles. They weren't field neagles. They were on a porch. They were not that much lighter than the women that they were. They were closer to the female's complexion than they were to Lance or the other sisters. So I didn't get that. And that's one of the things that too. And they tried to play Andre, or I forgot his name, the father on the show, as him being a colorist, but he's not the darkest dude in the room either. Like, he's lighter than the people he picked for the ad, obviously, but he's not like some really dark-skinned dude. So it just didn't really do justice, in my opinion, because it's like he's slightly darker than the people he supposedly be caping for. I don't know. It just, to me, that just throws me off a little bit. It's a dude who's not that much. Even the white dudes that work with him, co-op, said that he's not dark skinned. Like, he's also one of those, these chicks that be on YouTube thinking they dark skinned and they not. Sorry, says Jamila Mew does that too. I know a couple of females who I used to watch back in the day. They just like the pro-black. These black is like they dark as tar and they like brown as a paper bag. But I guess Dre had that complex as well. But I don't know. The show tried to address colorism, validation, promotion. I think as far as dealing with the issue, not looking for solutions, they did that. But I think it could have been better if they actually gave, information on how you can actually go find these businesses that are online that specifically target little black girls as far as representation in dolls. They did address colorism. I don't think it did much justice, being that I don't think he's a dark-skinned dude, but they did point it out. that, you know, even black people in those positions of power, when they're looking for a family to market a product, they still pick white folks, or they pick light brights to be an image. And of course, he messed that up and ended up going too far and picking an African family, and, you know, he messed it all up by, you know, being too pro-blackity black. But it is something to think about, that these men who are in these positions, sisters always say, well, he could do this and he could do that and he can do this, you know, using that authority or power he has. But sometimes they really don't have that power. Like, you know, they might have the liberty to do certain things, but to a certain extent. We don't know, you know, how much, you know, what backlash he can have, or will he lose that client by being bold. That was the problem with the survivor's remorse. The sister had the position to hire a dark-skinned model who didn't show up, and then she got the light-skinned chick, but, you know, she wanted to fire the light-skinned chick because she wasn't who she ordered, which is understandable, but it wasn't her money, it wasn't her brand. It was going to look bad on the NBA player who was trying to improve his image with the public, and him firing the chick because she wasn't dark enough wouldn't have been a good look. So that's just something to take into account for. I don't think sisters even think about that. They just look at the end result. They don't think about, you know, what goes on behind the scenes and what power these men actually can really have, or how that might affect clients in the future, right? It's not just them, their own business. They're working for a corporation. They're part of a team, and they can't be all rebellious with other people's dimes. But as my video, it was interesting they covered it. I'm gonna cover some more of the stuff that they've done. They addressed money on one episode. I think that was probably the best episode, Keeping Up with the Johnsons. I'm gonna cover that one too. Okay, in that gray dress, and what she got. Okay, I get it now. I didn't see before, but I see right now. Anywho, I did my video about black kids addressing colorism, promotion, and validation before I actually saw this episode of the Grapevine, where they were discussing the whole situation going on in Nigeria with the skin bleaching and all that nonsense, whatever. Anywho, one of the sisters in the show, in the episode, she's at, it's an hour-long episode, and I don't know if you want to watch all that, but it was a good conversation. But she starts at like 12:35. She's a sister with the Janet Jackson, Poetic Justice, Dookie braids, and the gray shirt. She says something again around, I think, 28 minutes. She reiterates and double down on what she said before, but she was putting a lot of, I guess, pressure on black men, or men in general who are in these positions. In context, she was speaking about videos and stuff like that, but I know when it comes to promotion validation, it's not just music videos, it's everything. It's all types of advertisement, TV commercials, magazines, all that. But some of the men pushed back. That's why she came back to her first comment, saying, like, they're not being realistic about what these men can actually do. And I said that a little bit in my video, but she did say that, and I'm thinking, like, well, one part is like, well, Anthony Anderson's character on the show, I'm wondering how much of it's the author of the show, the producer, whatever, writer, that's his family that the show's based off. That's one thing, too. One thing he said that, my wife is biracial, she's mixed, whatever. But in the same sentence in his NPR interview, he had said that Barack Obama was black. And I'm like, how does that work? Why do we do that? Like, that don't make any sense. But anyways, I'm wondering how much of the fact that, like, was Anthony Anderson's character actually him? Was he speaking from a point of view where he's a black man, he's popping right now, he's got a successful hit, sitcom show on ABC, so that's big league right there, and he addresses colorism, he addresses promotion, his show addresses all types of social justice issues, but he particularly addressed something that really more so affects black women and black girls. But I'm wondering how much is taken aback by that, being that, is it him responding to what he sees other brothers in his position, the backlashes they get, the Tyrese's and the Kanye West's for who they choose to be with? Because again, there's a lot more commentary I'm seeing on the internet and social media from black women talking about they're not supporting these type of brothers no more. I was in a group and they were talking, and the brother posted, and I understand what he was saying. In context, he was talking about these black liberal progressive type men who have non-black wives, who talk about white supremacy And like the director of Get Out, he's biracial and he's married to a white woman. I don't know why they include him because he's mixed, but we one draw rule ourselves, so it don't matter. But he talked about him, and some people in the comment section also brought up Nate Parker and Birth of a Nation and all that stuff, making a point that the woman was he was making a point, like, why didn't they marry black women? The black women were coming in the post talking about, yeah, we got to stop supporting these type of dudes. So I'm like, okay, whatever, with that. But I guess I'm curious to, like, what is the thought process on the fact that this is a brother who's probably doing this. He's doing something for sisters or whatever. But is there any ties to it? Could his character be Anthony Anderson? Could he have, had these same dialogues, or is he just looking at the criticisms of other brothers in that position? That's just something I'm curious to get more information on or see what the thoughts are on that. But back to why I put the clip of the grapevine up. As well, I'm not putting the clip up, I'm gonna just leave a link to the video, and I already said where her comments were. But she said that she puts more pressure on these people in these positions or whatever, and she claims that she works in production, so she says she kind of sees what happened behind the scenes. But again, I'm saying it's not realistic to what these men can actually do. And to get back to the actual episode of the show, Anthony Anderson's character, he made the pitch to put the white family on. Everybody liked it, right? He won that pitch. He won that client, whatever, right? Then he goes back after what his wife said about the black dolls and the representation, all that. He goes and he picks the barge, the family with the pointy noses, the flat asses, and the kinky hair, which his coworker said, right? And they all got on him for being a colorist and accused him for being that way and all this other stuff. But at the same time, they were still cool with that being, okay, all right, cool. We don't want to do the white family. We'll do this white-like family, this white-ish family, right? We'll do that instead. And but then when he went a step further and he picked the Nigerian-looking family with the little garb and all that other stuff, that was a problem. They're like, nah, you fucked up. Like, nah, you went too far, bro. Like, so it's like, it kind of in a comedic way showed like he could only do so much. Also, when it comes to advertisement and these things, like, you are at a table in a group, a think tank with a bunch of people, and everybody's competing for their idea to be forefront. So you still got to recognize even a brother in that position is still competing with other folks. And it reminds me kind of like how some people were upset. Will Smith doesn't get critiqued on these things a lot. Some people have said certain things, but I think he's had a lot of balance. But it was something about before he got his Oscar boycott or whatever, how Negroes is, I don't know. That just was funny to me. People were boycotting shit they weren't invited to in the first place. But before all that, he was on this whole, there's no racism in Hollywood, and the only color in Hollywood is green. But the point he was making on why Eva Menendez was casted in Hitch was because people just don't want to see him with a black wife as far as market value, right? It's more appealing. You can tap into a whole nother market by putting a superstar or someone who's of notoriety of Mexican descent. That's why they picked her. Same with, I think, Denzel Washington in Out of Time, and same day with Denzel Washington and Training Day. Eva Menendez was his love interest in both those movies. But I'm saying, like, that's just business 101, right? So if, put it this way, like, certain time slots have a certain demographic, certain people watch certain shows, and these people, they know what to market in that time slot. They know what those people can actually afford. So that's how the advertisement is based, on all that data and information. They know it all, right? So again, when sometimes I just think sisters oversimplify what these men really can do and the process behind it, and if you're dependent upon other people to promote you already losing. But anyways, another thing too is like, because a sister that I know, and I'm gonna probably do a video on that, well, something else that came out of the situation, but she had asked, like, who would you pick to meet with, or who would you respect as a black leader in certain positions? And I'm like, I knew what I was doing. I knew what I was saying. I know she was going to push back. But I said Byron Allen. And she goes, no, we can't have black men without black minds. I said it to this point, though, right? Like, one of the issues with our problem is promotion and validation in public and publicity in the media. and he's a black billionaire who owns TV networks, and he's responsible for several shows being on air that if he didn't do it, they wouldn't be there. So I'm saying, I get the whole argument. I did the video, Byron Allen's white wife is why she's a problem, and still my point is still the same. This is a brother in that position where brothers with black wives aren't. People still talk about Nate Parker, but they ignore the fact that other black men with black wives did not want to make the movie. He went to them and asked them to donate. They didn't do that either. He went to them and said, "Do you want to help direct this?" They didn't. They told him to do. The black men with the black wives told him to add a white savior. So, as much as I get those people making arguments about these liberal type, progressive type dudes talking about white supremacy, at the end of the day, we ain't in a position to exclude somebody in that position of power because their wife is not black. That's just my take on it. If you want, it's all about the art of the deal, compromising and negotiating. And the reality is, we're not in a position where we can just be excluding people in positions of power because of who they with. That's just my take on that. But I'm saying that was one of the points, though. One of our big issues is promotion and representation in the media. And, you know, I just said Byron Allen because I knew what was going to happen. But I wanted to make that point. It's like, yo, y'all can't be complaining about not getting picked and not getting representation, but then when somebody's in a position, you reject it because of who he's married to. And I'm saying, and the point I wanted to make, even with the whole Kanye West situation with the casting call, was, you know, because a lot of women are saying they're not going to support, which is their right to do so. I think they go overboard. They don't be thinking. But it's my response would be then they just should not hire any black women at all then, because even behind the scenes, when black men are in those positions, sisters eat regardless anyways. Whether it's in makeup or photography, they're all working behind the scenes too. I guess the point is you want more on camera and more on the scene stuff. I get that, but y'all don't even take for account the amount of sisters that are employed and working behind these black men. So the most color-struck, blah, blah, blah dudes you don't like, you look at their teams, you'd be surprised how many more black women working with them, working for them. And you don't think about all that too. But I'm getting off topic. That's my video. Blackish tries to address colorism. How do you think they did? I am curious of all the dark-skinned activists, because I haven't really heard any videos from them addressing the shows that have actually addressed it. So far, Blackish and Survivor's Remorse, they attempted to do it. I think on Survivor's Remorse, it was balanced, but it didn't make the dark-skinned girl look good. It made her look it made her look like the bad guy. This episode is different. It actually made Anthony Anderson's character look like the dickhead because he was conceding to the point that he might be a colorist or whatever, even though he feels that he's not.